Samantha Dale, 34, an environmental engineer living in Omaha, never imagined that an ordinary Sunday dinner would shatter her world. The family gathered around the dining table, her parents, her brother Ethan, and his wife, Tessa. The roast sat untouched, steam curling in the air. Her father leaned forward, his voice flat. "You can take the guest room or move out." His tone was so calm it sliced. Samantha blinked, unsure she'd heard right. Ethan leaned back with a smirk. "Better if you're gone by tomorrow," he said, almost cheerfully. The fork slipped from her hand, clattering against her plate. Her chest tightened. She'd been paying most of the household expenses for years, utilities, repairs, even the shiny new refrigerator. Yet now, they were treating her like a tenant who'd overstayed. Tessa crossed her arms, her lips curling into a small, victorious smile. Samantha tried to explain, her voice shaking. "I've covered your bills, Dad. The electricity, the roof repair, everything." But her father waved her off. "It's decided." Her mother stared at her plate, silent. Rage filled her chest. Samantha rose, grabbed her keys, and whispered, "Fine. I'm gone." That night, she packed her things, loaded her car, and left the house she had once kept alive. A week later, Samantha's phone buzzed while she was reviewing blueprints. Her mother's name flashed on the screen. When she answered, all she heard was chaos, Ethan shouting in the background. "She's lying, Mom. Tell me she's lying." His voice cracked with panic. "What's happening?" Samantha asked, alarmed. Her mother's voice trembled. "It's about Tessa. There are people asking questions." Samantha's stomach tightened. After everything they'd done to her, she'd sworn to move on. But that one call pulled her right back into the storm she'd escaped. Years earlier, after her grandmother's death, Samantha had moved back into her parents' house to help them. The bills were piling up, mortgage, utilities, repairs, and her father, Greg, was drowning. She stepped in, her steady engineer's salary becoming the family's lifeline. New windows, a water heater, property taxes, she covered them all. "You don't have to do this, honey," her mother had said once. But she did. Someone had to. She worked 60-hour weeks and missed vacations to keep that roof over their heads. Yet, when her paycheck hit the account, her father barely acknowledged it. His eyes always drifted to Ethan, the golden son with big dreams but no follow-through. Ethan Dale was an expert at failing upward. Food trucks, crypto apps, online stores. He tried everything and succeeded at nothing. Yet every time he fell, Greg picked him back up. "He's just getting started," their father would say proudly, while Samantha covered another electric bill. Once, she overheard her mother whisper, "She's just here to help, Greg. Ethan's the one with potential." The words burned. She wasn't family anymore. She was the help. Still, she stayed, telling herself that family loyalty meant something. But deep down, resentment was growing, waiting for the right moment to break free. Then Ethan met Tessa. She arrived at dinner one evening wearing a white suit and diamond earrings that sparkled under the chandelier. "This is Tessa," Ethan announced proudly. "She's a real estate agent." Their parents lit up like she was royalty. "You're lovely," Greg said, shaking her hand. "You must be doing very well." Tessa smiled, the kind that didn't reach her eyes. "I do all right." Samantha studied her, designer heels, perfect manicure, and a watch worth more than her monthly rent. It didn't add up. Real estate in Omaha wasn't that profitable. But Tessa had an answer for everything, and a way of charming everyone, especially Greg. Tessa quickly became the family's new star. She dropped by in expensive clothes, talking about flipping, houses, and leveraging equity. Greg hung on every word, nodding like she was a financial genius. "You picked a good one," he'd tell Ethan, clapping his back. Meanwhile, Samantha sat in silence, her contributions shrinking into invisibility. "I just paid the property tax," she'd remind them. "Let's hear about Tessa's next project," her father would cut in. The favoritism was suffocating. Sometimes, she caught Tessa smirking across the table, as if she knew exactly how to twist the knife. The Sunday it all exploded began quietly. The smell of pot roast filled the air. Samantha sat down, bracing herself for another tense dinner. Then the door burst open. Ethan walked in, dragging suitcases. Tessa followed, heels clicking on the tile. "We're moving in," Ethan said, dropping the bags. Greg didn't even look up from carving the roast. "Samantha, you can take the guest room or move out." The words hit her like a slap. "What?" she whispered. "You're serious?" Ethan leaned back, smug. "Come on, Sam. You don't need all that space." Tessa smiled sweetly. "We'll make this house shine again." Samantha's jaw clenched. "I've paid for this house," she said sharply. "You're living off my work." Greg just sighed. "They have plans," he muttered. Samantha stared at her mother, who said nothing. That was the moment she broke. Samantha stormed upstairs, throwing clothes into a duffel bag. Her heart pounded as she yanked cords from the wall. TV, blender, coffee maker, all hers. Ethan followed her, laughing. "You're really taking the couch?" he jeered. "You don't even have your own place." She ignored him, loading her things into the car. Her father stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "You're making a scene," he said coldly. Samantha didn't look back. She slammed the trunk shut, got into her car, and drove off. The house, glowing in the rearview mirror, faded into the night, a place she'd kept alive but never truly belonged. Days later, Samantha moved into a small apartment downtown. It wasn't much, but it was hers. Her coworker, Nina, helped her unpack, teasing, "You finally escaped the Dale Hotel." They laughed, sipping takeout coffee among stacks of boxes. "You need something new, try yoga," Nina suggested. "It's not just stretching, it's therapy." Samantha smiled weakly but agreed. The next evening she went. The quiet studio, soft music, and gentle movements made her feel lighter. For the first time in years, she was breathing for herself, not for anyone else. But peace didn't last. Every time Samantha thought of her brother and Tessa, unease crept back. Their luxury, their smug confidence, it didn't add up. One night, she called Marcus, an old friend in real estate. "Hey, do you know a Tessa Dale?" she asked. He hesitated. "You mean Tessa Cole?" "Yeah, she's on some radars. Her agency's being investigated for fake appraisals and skimming client funds." Samantha froze. "Are you sure?" "Nothing proven yet," Marcus said. But where there's smoke, her blood ran cold. Tessa wasn't just manipulative, she was dangerous. And Samantha knew her family was next on the line. The next morning, Samantha called her father. "Dad, I need you to listen," she said, voice urgent. "Tessa's company is under investigation. They've been accused of fraud." Silence crackled on the line before Greg finally replied, cold and clipped. "Don't stick your nose in their business, Sam. They're fine." She pressed on. "Dad, I'm serious. She's dangerous." His sigh came heavy. "You're jealous. That's what this is. They're doing well. Focus on your life." Then the line went dead. Samantha lowered the phone slowly. He hadn't even considered her words. The loyalty that once fueled her sacrifices was now a barrier. Blind trust, shielding the wrong people. Samantha tried again, this time with her mother. "Mom, please hear me out," she pleaded. "Tessa's company has complaints about fake mortgages." Her mother's voice was soft but firm. "Samantha, don't ruin things. Ethan's happy." "Happy," Samantha repeated, disbelief tightening her chest. "He's living with a con artist." But there was only silence, the same silence that had followed every warning she'd ever given. Samantha hung up, trembling. She realized her mother's silence wasn't neutrality, it was surrender. Left on her own, Samantha decided to dig deeper. She contacted Rachel, a real estate lawyer she'd met on a past project. Rachel's reply came swiftly. "Tessa Cole Real Estate is tied to multiple pending fraud cases, inflated prices, falsified records, and shell accounts." Samantha's heart pounded. She scoured public databases, tracing Tessa's name through property filings and mortgage liens. Each click uncovered another layer of deceit. One entry froze her, a recent second mortgage on her parents' house. The signature beside her father's name was Tessa's. Samantha's stomach turned. They had no idea they were standing on a financial time bomb. That night, Samantha couldn't sleep. She sat at her desk, the glow of her laptop highlighting the documents Marcus and Rachel had sent. Her parents' address. The same house she'd paid to maintain. A $250,000 second loan taken just weeks earlier, signed by Greg and Tessa. The borrower listed, a company registered to Tessa's firm. Her parents had been swindled, and they didn't even know it. She stared at the screen, whispering to herself, "She's using them, she's using him." Every sacrifice she'd made for that house suddenly felt like a cruel joke. Samantha decided she wasn't going to stay silent anymore. 2 days later, Samantha drove to her parents' house. Her grip on the steering wheel was tight, her heart pounding with equal parts fury and dread. Ethan was in the driveway unloading groceries. "We need to talk," Samantha said, stepping out of her car. He rolled his eyes. "Not now, Sam." She held up her phone, screen glowing with the email from Rachel. "Your wife's a fraud, Ethan. She forged Dad's signature on a second mortgage. The company she works for is under investigation." He snatched the phone and skimmed the message, his smirk fading. "You're making this up," he snapped. "You've always hated her." "No," Samantha said coldly. "I just see her for who she is." Ethan's face hardened. "You're jealous, Sam. You can't stand that I finally found someone successful." Samantha stepped closer, her voice trembling with anger. "Successful? She's stealing from you, from Mom and Dad." He shoved the phone back at her. "Leave. We don't need your paranoia here." The word stung, but she held his gaze. "You'll regret this, Ethan." "Go home, Sam," he sneered. "No one wants your drama." She turned toward the door, her pulse racing. Inside, she found her mother in the kitchen stirring soup. "Mom," she said quietly, "Tessa's done something terrible." Her mother didn't look up. "Please don't start again." Samantha bit her tongue. Nothing she said would break through their denial, not yet. Back at her apartment, Samantha called Marcus again. "It's worse than I thought," he said. "Her name's on mortgage documents for your parents' house. It's tied to a shell company." "A shell company?" Samantha repeated, dread pooling in her gut. "Yeah," Marcus continued. "If they don't clear it soon, the bank could foreclose. I'll send you everything I found." She thanked him, her voice shaking. The house she'd kept afloat for years was now collateral in a fraud scheme. Tessa wasn't just lying, she trapped them. Samantha printed every document, creating a growing pile of evidence on her dining table. One evening, Samantha's phone rang again, her mother's number flashing. "Samantha," her voice cracked, "there are people here asking for Tessa." Samantha grabbed her keys and raced across town. When she pulled up, 2 investigators were standing at the porch, badges gleaming. "We're here about Tessa Cole," one said. "She's linked to multiple fraudulent transactions." Ethan's voice thundered from inside. "She's lying. Mom, tell me she's lying." His words spilled into the night. Samantha stood frozen as the investigators handed Greg a business card. "We'll be in touch," one said grimly. When they left, silence fell, thick and suffocating. Moments later, headlights flashed. Tessa's car pulled up across the street. Samantha's pulse quickened. She crossed the road, her phone recording quietly in her pocket. "Tessa," she called. The woman froze, her expression sharp. "What's this about?" "You forged signatures," Samantha said evenly. "You took their savings. The house is gone because of you." Tessa's smirk faltered, then hardened again. "Fine," she snapped. "I took the money. Greg signed off on it. He was too stupid to read the papers." Samantha's stomach twisted, but she kept her voice steady. "You used them. They trusted me," Tessa said coldly. "That's on them." Then she turned, heels clicking, and drove off into the night. The recording kept rolling in Samantha's pocket, proof she'd finally exposed the truth. Inside, Ethan was unraveling. "How could she do this?" he muttered, pacing. "You knew something was off. Why didn't you stop her?" Samantha stared at him, incredulous. "I tried. You called me jealous." He sank onto the couch, rubbing his temples. "We're going to lose everything," he whispered. Their father sat in silence. The investigator's paperwork spread across the table. His voice cracked. "She used my name, my house, my trust." Samantha said nothing. For years, she'd been dismissed. Now the truth was undeniable, and all she felt was exhaustion. Later that night, Greg called. "Samantha, we're in trouble," he said, his voice hollow. "The bank's calling in the loan. We might lose the house. Please come back. We need you." Samantha's throat tightened, memories flashing. The dinner, the humiliation, the silence. "No, Dad," she said quietly. "I gave everything to that house. You chose them over me." "I made a mistake," he whispered. "We all did." She closed her eyes. "You made yours. I'm done fixing it." Then she hung up. The tears came, but they weren't of sadness. They were relief. For once, she wasn't carrying anyone but herself. Samantha sent the recording of Tessa's confession to the investigators the next morning. "This will help," one replied. "Thank you." She forwarded all the mortgage documents and financial transfers she'd uncovered. Her apartment felt different now, lighter. She had done everything she could. Her family, for once, would have to face the consequences without her. Still, part of her heart ached, the part that had always wanted their approval. She opened her curtains, watching the Omaha skyline glow under the setting sun. Freedom had a quiet beauty. Weeks passed. The investigation deepened, and Samantha learned through Marcus that Tessa had fled the city. "Authorities are after her," he said. "She won't get far." Meanwhile, the Dale family's finances crumbled. The second mortgage defaulted, and foreclosure notices arrived. Samantha didn't call. She'd already said her goodbye. When she walked past her parents' house one morning on her way to a job site, a foreclosure sign stood in the yard. The windows she'd replaced gleamed in the sunlight, a silent reminder of everything she'd once given. Inside that house, her family fell apart. Ethan lost his job and started working part-time at a hardware store. Greg began driving deliveries to cover debts. Her mother cleaned houses to buy groceries. Their retirement savings were gone, siphoned away into Tessa's shell accounts. Neighbors whispered about that family who trusted the wrong woman. And through it all, Samantha stayed away. Not out of spite, but because she'd learned the hardest truth of all. Sometimes, walking away is the only way to survive. One afternoon, an envelope arrived in Samantha's mailbox. Her mother's handwriting, shaky, uneven. Inside was a single page. "We're sorry. We should have listened. Please forgive us." Samantha read it once, then placed it on her counter. She didn't open it again. Forgiveness wasn't something she could give easily, not after years of being invisible. Instead, she poured herself a glass of wine and watched the city lights flicker. She wasn't angry anymore, just done. 6 months later, Samantha sat in her new apartment, bigger, brighter, full of life. Her blueprints were spread across the desk, sunlight streaming over her promotion letter. Lead environmental engineer. Her friend Nina raised a glass. "To you, Sam. You finally got everything you deserve." Samantha laughed softly. "Took me long enough." They clinked glasses. Yoga classes, evening walks, new projects. Her days were full again, but this time on her terms. She had built a new foundation, not for others, but for herself. Through a mutual friend, Samantha heard her parents had moved into a small rental on the outskirts of Omaha. Ethan was still struggling, his once cocky voice reduced to murmurs of apology over missed calls. Her parents were picking up odd jobs. The house was gone, the savings drained, but their pride had finally cracked. Samantha listened, but she didn't reach out. Pain had made her strong, boundaries had made her free. Sometimes, late at night, Samantha caught herself replaying everything: the dinner table, her father's dismissal, Tessa's smirk. It all seemed distant now, like a bad dream fading at dawn. What she felt most wasn't anger anymore. It was clarity. "Family isn't about blood," she told Nina one evening. "It's about who shows up for you." Nina smiled. "Then I guess you've found your family." Samantha nodded, her chest warm. For once, that felt true. Samantha had spent years defining love, as sacrifice. But she'd learned that love without respect is just servitude. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty, she said during a YouTube live stream months later, sharing her story with thousands of viewers. It's protection. The comments poured in, stories of betrayal, healing, survival. People from across the world thanked her for her honesty. She smiled, realizing her pain had become someone else's strength. That was enough. She leaned closer to the camera, her voice calm, her smile genuine. If you've ever been dismissed by the people you love, know this. You still matter. You can rebuild. You can start over. The chat flooded with hearts and messages. Tell me, she added, where are you watching from tonight? What time is it where you are? Her tone softened. I'd love to know how far this story has traveled and who it's reached. The screen glowed softly, her reflection serene. For the first time in years, Samantha wasn't anyone's caretaker. She was simply herself, free, whole, and finally heard.